Hey, everybody, welcome to the conversation. You're with Andy Mason. This is authentic conversations around the messy intersection of faith, family, and business. And you're in for another treat today. I have with me Marilyn Adamson. Marilyn, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. It's a great privilege.
And people are like, well, who's Marilyn? So you are about to get such a treat. If you are a business person, you love God, and you grew up knowing that, man, I should be leading people to Jesus, but I have no idea how to lead people to Jesus. And then secondly, you're like, how do we use marketing? Whether that's for whatever reason, here is somebody that can help you with both of those. So we're going to jump on that in terms of the results. Actually, I'm not going to tell you the results. You'll hear that in the process of this story. Marilyn, we were just talking before and saying you're probably the most unlikely evangelist. Tell us a little bit about your story and how you got to meet Jesus.
All right. So I was raised somewhat religiously. And as early as 8th grade, I was asking people, how do you know God exists? And they were just saying, well, you just know. Why are you asking? You just know. And everybody answered me that way. And I thought, here are the people that believe, and they don't know why. This is all made up. This is like Santa Claus. And so I concluded that God wasn't real. And so I told my parents I wasn't going to church and I was done with it. And they were kind of okay with that. But my junior year of high school, I became friends with a Christian. And she really walked with God. She really trusted him with things going on in her life. And I began to wonder. I began to want God to be real because I admired her. But I hated the thought of being fooled. Just dreaded that. And so I, as much as I wanted God to be real, I just couldn't believe. And so I spent a year and a half debating her. And I would write out questions and hand them to her the next day. Like I was intent on this, and she was patient, and out of love for me, she went and researched answers for me. Well, long story short, it was finally hearing about the Earth's distance to the sun and the properties of water that convinced me of God's existence.
Oh, you're kidding me. So, okay, that tells me a little bit about you in terms of the intellectual capacity. Now, this was your junior year?
This was now my senior year of high school, in middle of the year. Yeah. And I just saw it wasn't by chance, if you should study sometime the properties of water. It's fascinating, like it freezes top down so the fish live in the winter, and it has a unique surface tension so it brings water all the way to the top of the trees. It goes on, there's like 12 really unique things.
Oh, wow.
And so that convinced me. Well, then
hang on, you're saying the 12 properties of water convinced you that there must be a God? Yes. Plus you've got this friend that is so patient, that's kind, that for the first time it's someone that they've got a life that the level of peace and trust and confidence that they walk in is admirable. Mm-hmm. And if I remember talking to you last time, you always won the argument, but you always left feeling empty inside.
Yes, I'd walk away thinking, okay, I won that. But, she believed everything she said, and I'm not sure I believed anything I said. I just wanted to win the argument. And that's common, I think, when you get in face-to-face conversations, especially if you're talking to an atheist. Defenses are way up. And so it was actually through a book that convinced me, because I was away from her, my defenses could come down and I could be honest.
Yeah.
And that actually played into what we're about to talk about too, is what happens when you're alone and private and your defenses can come down.
Yeah.
How God can speak to you.
So what was the book?
Know Why You Believe by Paul Little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll put a post of that link so people can find that. But so you're now a senior in high school, you planning the rest of your life. You've been an atheist, an argumentative atheist, obviously really smart, intellectual capacity. And then you're like, so what'd you do? Like, did you, okay, God, you're real. Okay. Like, what would that look like?
Well, I knew if it was just, oh, by the way, you know, the night that I asked him into my life, I spent a good 3 or 4 hours reviewing all the evidence. And then my prayer was,
you should have been a lawyer, Marilyn.
I said, my prayer was, okay, you win. And I ask you to come into my life. You could do with it whatever you want. And I just wanted to know God, you know, and it just seemed proper that given his existence, that was the right approach to take, you know, that he could do what he wanted. And I had no expectations. So I realized if it was just emotion, it would be gone the next day. So the next morning I woke up and I said, are you still there? You know? And I just sensed he was, and I can't explain that, but I had a whole new list of questions. Well, what does God care about? How does he view life? And how does he view us, you know? And I just had a whole new, so I loved reading the Bible. I couldn't get enough of it. I was amazed. And I grew quickly. That's when my parents had difficulty, was when I became a Christian. They were okay when I was an atheist. But, you know, it became a problem when I became a Christian because I was off the deep end.
No, you know, so just a little context. So you graduated high school. How did this decision that you made, and I love this, the same Dr. Craig Keener, a theologian, he was, I think, 13, wanted to be an astrophysicist, and has an encounter with a bunch of Baptists that shouted this, that he wins the argument. And then he's walking away and one of them shouts after him, well, just don't harden your heart because, you know, it ends really poorly and you end up burning in hell, which is not the most promising or encouraging. But for him, with his logistical, super, super smart, he like you said, I was reading Aristotle and it's got this such and such equation of this and that, and he goes, there was enough doubt for me to wonder, you know, I don't want to screw it. If I get this wrong, I will spend eternity. And the percentages of being wrong is not comfortable. So he made this what would seemingly be a logical decision. Like you said, I spent 3 hours reasoning around the evidence for God. And then he actually came to the same conclusion as you. Okay, God, you're for real. And the most logical response of a created being is to say, here's my life. So what did that look like for you? What did you do? Like, did you study differently? Did you go after a different course?
No, I was so focused on my relationship with God that I kind of, I was very uninterested in what I did career-wise. You know, I went with my dad, visited a campus, and the guy says, well, what do you like to do? I said, oh, I don't know. And he well, what have you done in high school? I said, well, I'm on the editorial board of the paper. And do you like to write? I said, yeah. He said, okay, School of Journalism. I said, okay. You know, I was just,
whatever.
It was whatever. So God did use that though, because I wound up majoring in advertising PR. And that fed into what I wound up doing, which was building this evangelistic website.
So this is where it's amazing. So number one, for people to hear, here's a argumentative atheist who finds out that the evidence for God is far greater than anything. I like those 3 things. Number one, you had a friend that was authentic, that modeled something that you wanted. Number 2, you actually, the curiosity, God's not afraid of your questions. you sought out. You were seeking without necessarily knowing. And 3, there was a book that just tipped you over the edge. And then you had a court case, a 3-hour court case, which you get to the end of it, and all the evidence stacked up in favor of God.
Yeah.
And so you're like, so I love that little process. And then it's amazing how God then has used your natural gifting, and then you have somewhat stumbled into, for those that are not aware, there's over 500,000 people that Marilyn's content leads to Jesus every single year. It's crazy in terms of the marketing. From anybody from a marketing standpoint, they need to be paying Marilyn lots of money because she's got some tips that are working. So how did you go from being a journalist, advertising and PR, to then having everystudent.com and everyperson.com? What was that process?
Well, I saw a lot of people come to Christ in college. I talked with anybody and everybody. And so even though I had worked at a couple ad agencies, during the summers of college, God very clearly called me on staff with Campus Crusade for Christ. That was its name. It's now called Cru.
Yeah.
And
so you met them on campus. Would you call yourself an evangelist at this time?
I don't know if I ever call myself an evangelist.
Yeah, I'm calling you one now. I mean,
okay.
But this is great, just for our audience to know.
Yes, I shared with, I led many to Christ during college.
Yeah, you call yourself a journalist in advertising and PR, but just happen to lead hundreds of people to Jesus.
Yeah. So when I came on staff, it was with a desire to use media to reach as many people as possible. That was my entire intent and what I felt God was asking me to do. So I worked in print media for a while. And then in 1999, so Google started in 1998.
Okay. In
1999, I felt like this organization is behind the times. We've got to get a website up, and wound up knowing that the person I was connecting with in graphic design and media also knew how to build websites. And so he and I just started building the website, and it launched in 2000.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking this will be a great way.
And that was called
everystudent.com, because I was with our campus ministry of Cru. And I thought this will be a great way to lead students to Christ, because it's on the internet and such. And I wound up being on a couple global leadership teams that would take me to conferences around the world. And when I would be there and talking about the site, people would ask me, can we have this in our language? And so now it's in 48 languages.
Yeah.
Each one its own site. And then so many people were coming to Christ through the site. Let me stop and say everystudent.com, and then we built everyperson.com because our staff were saying, oh, we want to be able to use an older term, than students. So we did.
Which my understanding is exactly the same. This is
they're the same.
For atheists, agnostics, people searching with faith questions about life, God, everything.
Yeah, and everything is worded to the non-believer. And the goal of the site is not to inform or educate. The goal of the site is to persuade them to begin a relationship with God by giving them reasons to know God. So intellectual and emotional reasons to show that why wouldn't you want a relationship with God? And, we give them the opportunity to do so. So last year, there were over 50 million people that came to the site.
You guys hearing this? 50 million people came to this website that most of us have not heard of. Yeah.
And a little over 1 million people asked Jesus into their life, which
which is
That,
like, how do you, so help us understand. Oh, hang on, go back a step, Marilyn. I heard you say, desire to use media to reach as many people as possible. And that was print media, because the internet didn't exist. So let's not talk about age here, but that was all new. 98, Google launches. 99, you start to build a website and realize we can go to where people are. Help me understand that, the difference of this transition that we're going through, even more so now, 2023, where people don't, or less people are going to church on Sunday, but church has an ability to go to people where people are. What's the difference?
Yeah, what I love about this is that we could throw a wide net out to the whole world, and those who are interested come to us.
Yeah.
So it's like if missionaries could wind up in a country and know who is interested that they could talk to, that's what this is like. The ones that are interested will come to the site. And so last year, if you do the math on it, it averages a little over 2,700 people every day coming to Christ. And we're very quiet about how we offer that on the site. We don't have a big red button that says pray this prayer. We have pretty long articles, and they're on topics like, is there a God, and relationships. I did one on the politics of Jesus. That was kind of fun to write. But just a whole variety of articles. And then the gospel's presented in about 20% of the articles. And at the end of those, there are 3 links at the bottom, and we don't say click on one. They're just sitting there, and they're small. And one says, I just asked Jesus into my life. Another one says, I may want to ask Jesus into my life. Can you explain this more fully? And then we take them to a whole different presentation of the gospel.
Yeah.
And then a third link where they can ask a question. And so when they click on that first link, they land on a hidden page. And in marketing, that becomes your measured conversion page, is what they call it in marketing. And on that page, we invite them to another site we built called startingwithgod.com to help them immediately start growing, which I love. I love that they don't have to wait weeks and wonder, what did I do? What was I thinking? But they can instead immediately begin to learn that Jesus did come into their life and what that means for them, and that God's love is unconditional and he'll never leave them, and on, and they can continue growing really for years. We have a lot on that site for them, startingwithgod.com.
So people watching this, everystudent.com is just geared and languaged for students. Everyperson.com is exactly the same, except it's just re-languaged for people who are no longer students, as in older people.
Well, actually, the wording even is exactly the same on both
just
sites.
The pictures.
It's just the name of the site.
That's so cool.
Everything else is the same, so you can refer to either one. It doesn't matter. It's the same site.
And then the discipleship site is
startingwithgod.com.
startingwithgod.com, which actually then is a series of emails that walks them through literally being discipled. And if anyone's familiar at all with Campus Crusade, or what's now known as Cru, similar, like Cru, YWAM, they're all real friends in terms of missional focus, discipleship focus. And I'm just still staggered. The churches that we're part of, you're just a handful of people working in, like, you're working in your bedroom office in Orlando, Florida, and what you built led 1 million people to Jesus last year.
Right. Right. No, I mean, it's remarkable. Only God accomplishes things like that. So one of the things I love about it is yes, there is online and such, but it frees Christians in their personal conversations
Yeah.
with non-believers.
Yeah.
And what I've seen is, just because I know the site is there, I can get into conversations with people so comfortably, because I'll just say, I'll have the conversation as God leads, and I can focus on loving them and listening to them, and not worried about how much information do I have to get through, because I know I can always recommend the site to them.
So, so this is anyone watching, there's lessons that we can learn from this, from marketing, from sales. This is so beautiful. The results of, and we don't have time to get even into all of the different testimonies that you've been hearing back from the site, which is not just in English, it's in 48 languages all over the world, people giving their lives to Jesus today and advancing. Come back a step. So there's two ways. One is that, like, you using it in person. So you're training believers to actually leverage this content, and it makes evangelism easy.
Well, not only, but God brings people your way when you are aware of the site. It's the wildest thing. Like, let me just give you a couple examples.
Yep.
I was in a hotel lobby, and this woman just turns to me and says, "Are you with our convention?" I said, "No, I'm with a site that takes on the hard questions about life and God. Like, why is life so hard? How do you even know God exists?" She looked at me, she said, "I'm an atheist, but I'm searching."
Yeah.
I said, "You will love this website. Let me give you a card to it." I mean, it was that simple, or I got on a flight and this man, "Well, what do you do?" And anybody can do this. Just because I built the site doesn't put me in a special category. Anybody can say, "I'm a teacher," or "I'm an engineer," but I'm also connected to a site that takes on the hard questions about life and God. And I said this to this man. He said, "We've got to talk." And turns out, he tells me the name of his company. You would all know it. And he had flown 110 million miles or some crazy thing. And he wasn't, that all. And the week or a few weeks before, he had gone to Ace Hardware to buy a rope to hang himself. And he was cocaine addicted and drug addicted and alcohol addicted. And he received Christ right there on the plane, So all I did is
you mean he bypassed the website?
No, I handed him my phone.
Yeah.
And I said, "Here, read this," and he read the gospel. And then I said, "Did you ask Jesus into your life the way this talks about?" He said, "Oh, no." I said, "Why not?" He said, "Oh, I don't have the time to commit to what this requires." And I said, "This is not a religion. This is God offering you a relationship with himself." And he went, "Oh." And then he received Christ,
That is so cool.
Typical executive, what do I have to do here? Oh, this is too much.
Yes, I mean, he's just like hardcore transaction. It's like, oh, this is amazing. A site that takes on the hard questions about life and God. Yeah, I'm a business consultant, but I'm also connected with an organization that takes on the hard questions about life and God. Oh, really?
Or a site. Yeah.
A site. What's the
Nobody's
site?
offended being given a website, and they're grateful that you're not cornering them. You're not bringing them into a long conversation that can get awkward, but you're just resourcing them. And they catch that, and they're just so grateful.
Yeah, it's unoffensive. If they want it, they want it. If they don't, you have like business cards, everystudent.com, everyperson.com.
Yeah. So let me tell you, there's a resource site that we built called everystudent.info. So instead of .com, it's everystudent.info. And you can, in our search box, you could type in the word cards, and get to the right page. You can
Okay.
type in, there's a free ebook that you could type into the search box. And there's even an email series on how to talk about God with others that I wrote.
Yeah.
And so you just type in the word talk in the search box. So there's homework for you, but it's all on everystudent.info.
Yeah. And for people, you can see on the Heaven and Business website right now, we actually have on the right-hand side on the drop down, not even a drop down, like in the bar. If you jump on the blog, if you jump on the podcast, on the right-hand side, there's a little icon you can click on that is everyperson.com, takes you straight to the website. You can see that there as well. It's so easy for anybody to do this, and then people getting saved. So, Marilyn, the other thing that just begs asking is, okay, so you're a journalism, PR, you've written a bunch of these articles. I mean, that's fantastic by itself. But then 50 million people come into the, like, how on earth, like,
so
for people that say people are not hungry for Jesus anymore, hang on, 50 million people came to a website about answering critical questions around life and God today. Like, this is what's going on right now, and it's only increasing. Like, how on earth do you get, just from a marketing standpoint, 50 million people to come to this website?
So I am running ads in 14 languages to 14 of the language sites. So, and we're running them in Google.
Yeah.
And so
so just pause.
Running ads.
So hang on. I'm just loving this. For everybody that's freaking out about conspiracy theories, hey, by the way, on Google, there's 50 million people coming through that website using Google AdWords to a site that's leading last year 1 million people to make decisions for Jesus, and not just make decisions, but then being invited into a discipleship sequence or a nurture sequence or a process. It just flies in the face of it. And for those that want to know more about that, check out the podcast that I did an interview with Ryan Collins, CEO of Bethel School of Technology, which is training, we could call them digital missionaries, going into Facebook, Google, Meta, whatever you want to call it, LinkedIn, and literally on the inside out. There is such a good work, and there's so much work for us to do. Marilyn, you're going to say?
Well, you think about it, our culture is there. You know, we're so used to going to Google or Amazon or
asking a question,
pulling up Uber on our phone, whatever we want. And so why not make it easy for people to find Jesus? I mean,
I agree.
Now, even crazier is those 50 million that came to the site, the average cost was 3 cents.
Unbelievable.
And these are people who are interested. You know, this isn't like everybody, and you know, and we have been seeing people come to Christ at under $2 a person.
Now, for people that are like this, I love this from a business perspective. The majority of churches have got a budget, you know, in excess of $100,000 would be the minimum. You're talking probably 200,000, 300,000, 400,000. And there's probably salvations per year. You can count them on a hand, if any. So we're talking tens of thousands. I think the statistics from Barna that it's something like $60,000 to $80,000 per person baptized. And you're talking, just by the way, you know, over here, crew, got this everystudent.com, everyperson.com. It's costing us about $3 per person to make a decision and actually follow on with Jesus. I'm just loving it. What a great way to do.
No, I mean, it's remarkable what God has done. Can I share just a couple of comments that people have made?
Absolutely. And then I want to hear a little bit more about, okay, everybody in business, we should be learning from Marilyn, because you're getting results and you're using marketing. Where do we go to learn what you have learned around marketing? Now, you're delivering something that's of eternal value, but you've learned things that all of us can leverage and learn from in regard to the marketing side.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
first, tell us the stories.
Well, let me say perrymarshall.com
Yep. perrymarshall.com.
is where I learned how to do Google advertising well.
Yeah.
So I would recommend him.
Okay. And he's got a book, and I'll just post a link below. So there you go. Go to Perry, and Marilyn actually uses one of his referrals right now, pays them to do your Google AdWords, but you shape it, and they're doing a bunch of stuff.
Well, I'm actually running the Google AdWords, but I hired somebody from Perry's contacts. He's in Dublin, Ireland, who's doing our Facebook advertising.
Okay, so the Facebook side.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But so you're at, okay, tell us the stories, Marilyn.
Well, I just wanted to read a couple to show this is real. These aren't just numbers, you know. Like Sharif, I actually met this guy in Jordan, and he went into an internet cafe for something else. And
now we're talking Jordan, Middle East, not Jordan,
the Middle
Florida
East,
or something.
Yes. Yeah. And he wound up on our Arabic site. And he said, here I was, a Muslim, reading article after article, thinking, this is true. Oh, wow. This is true. I sent the site to my friends, praying that God would speak to them. And many became believers, you know. And or like Caroline, she's from the UK. And she said, the information you provided answers many of my questions. You have led me from complete denial of God's existence. Wow. To not just believing in him, but knowing that he is there. The evidence you give was sufficient to convince this 33-year-old lifelong atheist. Not an easy challenge.
Wow.
And then let me just do one more, because this is common of people. People look like they're doing great, like they don't need God. They're okay.
Yeah.
You know, well, you know, Felix said, my life seemed great on the outside, but deep down I was breaking into pieces. Life was becoming harder and harder. Countless sexual partners, lots of lies. Sometimes I would just sit alone and cry. My life was a mess. Then one day I came across your website. You introduced God to me in a magnificent way. It has transformed my life.
Wow.
You know, and I've got thousands like that,
I bet
you know, which is pretty fun.
Well, so, okay, so then call to action, Marilyn. Where this is going to be seen by a bunch of different people, believers, primarily believers, and business people. So I'm just thinking, as a business person, you've got a $3 per salvation. That's a no-brainer. I want to give to that. How can people actually, like, you put more money in the chute and more people pull out the box? Is there a way to do that? And then secondly, what other call to action would you have for our listeners?
Well, you could give on everystudent.info. I mean, that site has everything you would need to equip you to be influential and to be effective in sharing Christ with people.
Good.
So everystudent.info, and you can give there if you want. But I would just love for you to spend some time on the site and get some cards. You know, they're cost hardly anything to get cards, and that's on the site too. And then see if God doesn't bring people your way, even people that you're not sure really would want a conversation. Like I have a close relative I don't want to hurt my relationship with her, and I said to her one day, you know, I'm a little stuck here. I need your advice. I said, on one hand, I don't want to be pushy. Yeah. But on the other hand, I don't want to be negligent either. I said, could I just show you one thing on the website? Just quickly show it to you. And she said, yes. So I scrolled down the homepage and said, this little hiker, you know, a little backpack hiker. Yeah. If you ever want to know reasons to believe in God and how I moved from atheist to believer, just click on that hiker. I said, there, was that okay? She said, succinct and safe. Thank you very much. And
That's
that was
fantastic.
it. And I just love that no matter who I'm talking to. One time I was landing, I was on an international itinerary, and I'm at a gate, and this woman starts talking to me. What do you do? Well, I'm connected to a site that told her. And she said, wait. And she reached into her briefcase and pulls out this enormous Bible. I thought, who travels with a book that big on an international trip? And she said, I am a recovering alcoholic. I just became a Christian and I bought this book, but I have no idea what to do with it.
Oh, wow.
And I said, go to startingwithgod.com and it will help you grow in your relationship with God. I mean, how easy can it
That's
get?
easy.
And I knew how much that would help her, and it was just so fun to be able to do that for her.
So good. I just so appreciate it. So action steps, like where to from here? Number one, go to everystudent.info and familiarize yourself with that. And there's a bunch of resources. Get cards, there's an email sequence of how to lead people to Jesus if you want that, how to use the site. Number two, go to every student or for our audience, everyperson.com. Familiarize yourself with that site, and then ask the Lord to bring people across your path of how you can leverage it. Hey, yeah, I'm a plumber, but I'm also connected to a site that answers all the hard questions around life and God. Really,
Yeah,
what's the
people
name of
are
the site?
so grateful.
It's everyperson.com. Wow, thank you. So that's really cool. Number three, Marilyn didn't mention this, but Marilyn's going to be coming to the Heaven and Business Conference in February of next year in Atlanta. You can heavenandbusiness.com. You see that there. And she's going to be doing a workshop and unpacking pretty much anything around this. I'm thinking, I'm not sure whether it's an evangelism breakout or whether it's a marketing, because there's so much on both sides. But truly, Marilyn, thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for your story. And I just know that you are removing all of our excuses and actually making it really simple. And I think that truly is the gift of an evangelist and someone that is skilled at marketing, probably better than you realize. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Andy.